Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm Toby, and on this channel I will be talking about building a business, a YouTube channel and a presence online. If you like what you see and you're new here, please consider subscribing. In today's video I want to give you 5 tips for building a brand online. Before we get into it, it is first really important that you understand what a brand actually is. Now, a brand could be a name, a logo, an icon, anything really that evokes certain connotations and emotions in a customer. Without a customer associating something with that brand, you have no brand, right? If I make up a name right now like Cafoodles, right? I could make a brand called Cafoodles, but it's not really a brand yet. It's just a name, it's just an idea. Until that builds into something, let's say Cafoodles is all about cars. Weird name, but let's just run with it. If I use Cafoodles for a really long time in association with cars and I build products and websites and news and infos and all sorts of things around that concept, people will start associating Cafoodles with cars. And that's what gives a brand its power. It's a strength, it's a connection between the brand and the customer within a certain niche. You can't have a brand that's for everything. You need to have a brand that has a specific pull, a specific appeal, a specific niche. Just think of Nike. Just by me saying that word, a certain number of images will have spawned in your head that are all around sports, outdoor activity, around fitness and well-being and health and everything in that particular niche. And that is Nike's brand. The reason I'm making such a big deal out of this is because tip number 1 is to understand what your own brand is to a customer. For example, let's say you run a YouTube channel, and let's say the YouTube channel is all about book reading. It's all about, a book club about the latest and greatest books. Maybe it's about novels and fiction. So that is a brand, and you want to keep your brand within a certain niche. You don't want to expand too far out into totally unrelated things because it's going to dilute your brand. Let's assume Nike started making flower pots. It's weird, right? And if they started expanding into too many random things, it tends to dilute that brand and people will no longer have this strong association of Nike equals sports. And so the brand in the sports niche loses a bit of power the more it gets diluted. When you're just starting out, it is really important to understand what your brand is and to build out that niche. For example, for me, my main channel is Surface Studio, which is all about filmmaking, visual effects tutorials, Adobe After Effects, Premiere Pro, and that sort of thing. And I've stayed within that niche for quite a long time. And so over time, you attract more and more people who like that particular topic area, and they start to associate filmmaking tutorials, hopefully quality, with that brand. And that's the audience that grows. The moment I start introducing too many random things, people will start dropping off because they will lose interest, and that can actually lead to a decline in your viewership and your subscribers. So if you're in a particular niche, make sure that any content you put out is aligned with that niche and the brand that you have. And so tip number 1 is make sure you understand your brand, make sure what the customers see in it and why the customers are there, and produce more of that type of content. You don't have to be 100% the exact same thing over and over, otherwise your audience will get bored. But you want to do things within that particular niche, within that brand that you're building. Tip number 2 is closely related but slightly different, and that is to figure out whether your brand is a corporate or business or product specific brand or whether it's a personal brand. For example, one of the things that happened to me on my main channel is because it is all about filmmaking, visual effects, and one specific area of things that I'm passionate about, the brand isn't associated with me as a person. However, depending on your content, it may be associated with you as a person. For example, take Philip DeFranco. He's a great example of this. People are subscribed to him, not because he gives them the news, because, well, the news are already out elsewhere. He obviously tries to be on top of everything, but it's news you could have heard elsewhere. People are there for him, for his personal view and perspective on the issues. And so he is essentially his own brand, which is why his channel is likely called Philip DeFranco. It's him. He is his own brand. And it is important to understand whether your value that your viewers get from you come from the brand, like a product or a specific niche or something that you've built up, or whether they're there for you, which for one does give you more flexibility in potentially moving around what content you talk about, but it's also a little bit more risk because if people start disliking you, they will dislike you no matter what you do. If people started disliking Surface Studio, I could probably spin up something else and that might do well. Who knows? But because it's not so strongly associated with me, I feel I do need a little bit of a space myself, which is why I'm now starting to build out this channel a little bit more. But it also means that there's some other consideration that you have to take into account. Tip number 3 for building a brand online is to use consistent branding. And that could be that you develop a specific logo that you incorporate into anything that you post, be that on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or maybe you have a specific text, a specific title like Surface Studio, which is my brand for Surface Studio, obviously, is text spelled out in a very specific way with a bit of a color splat behind it. And that is quite distinct. That's quite easy to identify for people. So that text style and that color theme does span through my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. So I'm kind of spanning that across. And that helps your audience to identify your brand no matter where they go. The interesting thing is that it doesn't even need to be terribly original or unique, although it makes it easier for people to spot if it's a very, very simple and easy to take in but very distinct kind of logo or text or term or style, or maybe your colors are very distinct. Try to find something that stands out from the crowd. Don't just copy what everyone else is doing. Try to find something that aligns really well with the brand that you're trying to convey, and then use it across all of your platforms consistently. Tip number 4, and this is especially true for YouTube, is to create consistent content. Brand awareness is all around spreading quite wide, so that, well, you don't want to spread too far until you have a certain user base, but wherever you are, on whichever social media platforms you are using right now, start using that brand that you want to carry through so that people start connecting with it. And then you obviously need to be consistent on all of those platforms, because even if you have a great brand, if you do it one day of a year, it's never going to take. So you have to create consistent content. It makes it easier for your audience to know what to expect if they know there's a schedule, if they know when you're releasing new videos, if they know when you're putting out new blog posts, if they know when you're putting out new images on Instagram. So be consistent and obviously, again, incorporate your brand into everything you do. Tip number 5 for building a brand online, assuming that you care that it's going to be a quality brand, is to associate yourselves with high quality brands that are kind of in your space. For example, one thing I like to do, and you may see a few things in the background, for Surface Studio itself, but also for Tobii G, because I'm a tech head, I love tech, I like to associate myself with high quality brands like Canon, Nikon, Sony, DJI, Rode. There's a whole bunch of different companies that I really respect for what they do. And by introducing those companies and those brands in my own content, it feels like it's getting a certain style, right? It's getting a certain tint by being associated with a certain category of brands. Obviously, that can work both in your favor and absolutely to your disadvantage. If you associate your brand with brands that are considered dodgy or deceptive or negative, that feeling will carry through to your audience and they will start associating that with your brand. On the flip side, and this is obviously what I'm trying to do, if people have good feelings about certain brands and you associate with those brands, like you use their gear, you may talk about them in reviews, or they may just accidentally appear integrated into your content somewhere, people start associating some of that with your brand so you can carry some of that positivity through. You obviously don't want to seem like a salesman. You still want to have your own unique brand and voice and a niche where possible, but it helps to associate with brands that you're really comfortable with, because on one side it helps lift your image a little bit, but on the other side, and this is something I'll be talking about in other videos, is it makes it easier then to connect with those companies for sponsorships, affiliate deals, or other things that you might have going on collaboration-wise with those companies. So you start connecting and building much more into this worldwide network of bigger businesses that, at least for me, I'm really trying to get into. Just because I want to build this into a big business, and you cannot have a big business without good connections And with that, I will let you go because this has dragged on quite a bit. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, favorite it, and share it around. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, please leave me some feedback whether you actually enjoy this content. Is there other questions you have, other things you'd like to know? Obviously, I want to talk more about building a business online, especially building out a YouTube channel and getting into all of the other social media to build a presence in the online world. So let me know whether you actually enjoy this content. And as always, if you do have any comments, questions, or suggestions, just leave them down in the section below. So thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I will see you later. We'll be right back.